pigman, rare forms of cancer and leukemia, and nuclear bomb testing. You might be asking yourself, what do all these have in common? Or better yet, how do they relate to my speech? The truth is that some of these are myths and some of these are facts, but they all have one thing in common. That thing is Aerojet, or more specifically Aerojet Chino Hills. I'll be reviewing what Aerojet was and how its effects are still lasting. What this shows is the entrance sign to Aerojet, the Gen Corp. It's a long driveway that you can go up, and I'll be discussing it more into my speech. I've lived in Chino Hills my whole life, and because of this, I've heard many stories about Aerojet. These stories have motivated me to research this topic many different times throughout the years. But over the past couple of weeks, I've become more knowledgeable about this subject than I ever have before. Just because you don't live in Chino Hills doesn't mean that this doesn't personally relate to you. The potential pollution caused by Aerojet has been known to reach as far as the Santa Ana River, so it can affect any of us. Today I'll be discussing what Aerojet was, the recorded pollution it caused, and how its cleanup process is still continuous. There's the barbed wire, and there's the Aerojet building itself. First, it is important that you know exactly what Aerojet was. Aerojet General is an 800-acre private mutations testing facility in Chino Hills, California that was open for 40 years from 1955 to 1995. The site was surrounded by barbed wire and virtually inaccessible cliffs. It is located 29 miles east-southeast of Los Angeles and near the junction of Orange and San Bernardino counties as well. There, Aerojet detonated mustard and tear gas weapons, exploded depleted uranium-tipped projectiles, and produced a galaxy of bombs and mutations. The depleted uranium on the projectiles were deployed as tank busters in the Gulf and Kosovo War. According to the Gen Corp website, Aerojet focuses on developing military, civil, and commercial systems and components that address the needs of the aerospace and defense industry markets. Today, Aerojet is implementing world-class technologies to meet the environmental challenges related to cleaning up both soil and groundwater contamination. Now that you have an idea of what Aerojet was and did, it is imperative that you know that it has had lasting effects on pollution. Aerojet produced potent and poisonous rocket fuel, including a compound, a toxic rocket fuel odorizer that led to a plastic anemia and may cause autoimmune thyroid disease, according to EnviroReporter.com. Over the years, petroloid and other poisonous substances were dumped into a 350,000-gallon polyethylene-lined pond and a 270,000-gallon lined sludge pit. There you see them dumping all of the soil that they have dug up into trucks to be deployed out to a dumping facility that I'll be discussing later. There's evidence that not only the site polluted, but that the toxins have made its way toward the water supplies used by millions of Southern Californians. In 1997, all 9 water wells that are used in Chino and Chino Hills were found to have petroloid in the wells. A sampling done by an environmental laboratory claims that 18 parts per billion of petrolate is considered a threat to public safety, and one well was found to have 21 parts per billion petrolate. Despite all the pollution, Aerojet and Gen Corp are dedicated to getting the site clean. There you see them going over and testing to see with magnetic metal detectors if any of the depleted bombs are still underneath the ground. Despite all the pollution, Aerojet and Gen Corp are dedicated to getting the site clean. Cleanup operations began in 2000, and already $46 million has been put into this project to get it clean. Approximately 6,000 tons of soil has been removed from the site, which they call it Red Water Pond. There you can see an unexploded ordnance technician evacuates a detected shell that they found underneath the soil. Testing of evacuated soils has been shown that no remaining contamination exists in the Red Water Pond at levels exceeding cleanup criteria, meaning that they have gone through the soil and then nothing left is contaminated according to what they're documenting. Extra precautions have been made to ensure that no air pollution would occur while removing the soil by truck to a landfill site in Kern County so it may be properly disposed of. Prior to the departure, all the trucks have to be inspected and brushed down to remove any soils that may be along the sides of the truck. Sweeps were conducted using the magnetometers to detect metal ordnance under areas where soil evacuation and screening took place to ensure complete removal. An unexploded ordnance technician would evacuate detected shells. If a shell could not be safely removed, a BIP, or blown-in-place operation, would occur, what you're seeing now. And after the BIP occurs, an ordnance technician would have to go by and ensure that it was properly blown up so that it was environmentally safe and that the shell was no longer in the ground. Although Aerojet's facilities are closed, its repercussions still remain, and it may take many more years for the site to be fully cleaned. Some sources believe that it may not ever be clean at all. Here you see the Aerojet sign, and it's a Gen Corp company. It's their parent company. There's the overview of it and how you get to it. There's a building there, there, and there, and it's all part of it in the testing facility. And if you drive up the cliff that you have to get to before you hit the barbed wire, you're going to see the sign that says danger explosives, hazardous waste area, unauthorized personnel keep out. There's still a guard up at the top, so you can't go any further than that without getting in trouble. Although Aerojet's facilities are closed, its repercussions still remain, and it may take many years to be fully cleaned, if it can ever be cleaned at all. Today I've discussed what Aerojet was and did, the pollution it's caused, and the steps they're taking to clean it up. Chino Hills is one of the hottest new cities in Southern California, where luxurious homes can range up to the millions in selected areas. Many of the residents, though, are unaware of this Cold War legacy hiding in their hills. It just goes to show you that you never know what's happening, not even in your own backyard. Hey, by the way, just take it out. Yeah. Is that safe? Excuse me, that's cool.
Yesenia, what did you think?
I thought your topic was very interesting, and your thesis is clear. Your information was well organized and presented. Your transitions were a little confusing, but your visual aids were large enough for everyone to see, so that was good. And you talked a little too fast sometimes.
All right, the opening is fine. I think that you are rushing it a little bit, and that's a problem throughout the presentation because you're not really connecting with the audience. You're kind of performing in front of the audience by doing that. I thought there's a very clear thesis statement in the speech and a very good preview of what's coming on, so I thought everything in the opening is pretty solid. The material development, we're running into the same issue. I think you need to cite the material a little bit more consistently. It's good background material. It sounds like you've done a thorough job on getting information, but you're not being thorough in citing it. Some of the terms you need to work on your pronunciation. We're not going to make a big deal about it right now, but for our next round of speeches, that'll be something that we're going to focus on. So munitions and Kosovo and petroliate, and there were one or two other terms that were a little bit awkward when you were saying them. The organization, I thought in the preview it sounded like it was going to be pretty well organized. I didn't think it was quite as clear in the speech. It sounded, we're just going from idea to idea to idea, and part of that is emphasized by the visual materials. You've got probably 15 or 16 slides that we're looking at that we're going through in a 6 minute and 45-second speech, which means that there's constantly something new, and a couple of them seem very redundant. I think you could cut that into, cut it in half easily and had plenty of material for the visuals. It just got complicated. The one that had the clearest integration into the speech was the blown up in place example that goes along with your definition at that point and also explains what you're talking about there. There are a couple of other places where I thought there were some good visual images, like the ordinance in the ground, for instance, but the number of shots that we got of the facility at the beginning and in the middle and at the end just seemed to be overdoing it. And laying out all the buildings, for instance, at the end, I think doesn't really add anything to the content of the speech. All right, thank you.